For centuries, many believed that before European explorers arrived, North America was a vast and mostly empty wilderness, a land of forests, rivers, and scattered tribes. But beneath the soil of the Mississippi River Valley lies evidence that tells a very different story. A story of a city, a massive city, a city filled with temples, plazas, markets, and thousands of homes. A city that once rivaled the great urban centers of the medieval world. Long before New York, long before Washington, long before even the earliest European colonies, there stood a thriving metropolis in the heart of North America. Its name was Cahokia. At its height nearly 1,000 years ago, Cahokia may have been the largest city north of Mexico. Yet today, most people have never heard of it. Its people left no written language. Its buildings were made of earth and wood, and over centuries, the forest slowly reclaimed what was once one of the most remarkable cities in the ancient Americas. But archaeology has begun to uncover its story, and what researchers have discovered is nothing short of astonishing. Around the year 1050 AD, something extraordinary began to happen along the fertile floodplains of the Mississippi River. Communities from surrounding regions began migrating toward one central area. Small villages slowly merged. Families arrived from distant lands, bringing their traditions, skills, and beliefs. Over time, these scattered settlements grew into something much larger. Within only a few generations, a vast urban center began to rise from the landscape. This was the birth of Cahokia. Located near the meeting point of several major rivers, the city sat at the heart of an enormous natural transportation network. Canoes could travel along rivers stretching across much of North America. This made Cahokia perfectly positioned to become a powerful cultural and economic center. As more people arrived, the city expanded rapidly. Wooden homes filled the plains, public plazas appeared, ceremonial buildings were constructed. At its peak, Cahokia covered more than 6 square miles. Historians estimate that between 20,000 and 40,000 people may have lived there. To put that into perspective, around the year 1100 AD, Cahokia may have been larger than London. In the heart of North America, a true metropolis had emerged. But what made Cahokia truly remarkable were its monumental earthworks. Across the city, massive artificial hills rose from the landscape. These were not natural formations. They were carefully constructed ceremonial mounds built by human hands. Workers carried soil in baskets, slowly building layer upon layer over many years. Archaeologists believe that more than 120 mounds once stood throughout the city. Some were small burial sites. Others served as platforms for important buildings. But the largest of them all dwarfed the rest. Known today as Monks Mound, this enormous structure still stands as the largest prehistoric earthwork north of Mexico. It rises nearly 100 feet above the surrounding landscape and covers 14 acres at its base. At the top of this massive mound once stood a large temple, or the residence of Cahokia's most powerful leaders. From this elevated platform, they could look out across the entire city. Below stretched vast open plazas, where ceremonies, gatherings, and festivals took place. Thousands of people could gather in these spaces, creating powerful moments of shared culture and belief. Life in Cahokia was vibrant and complex. The city was not simply a ceremonial center. It was a living, breathing urban society. Hundreds, perhaps thousands, of wooden homes filled its neighborhoods. Families cooked meals outside their houses while children played nearby. Farmers cultivated maize, beans, and squash in surrounding fields. Craftsmen shaped pottery, carved ornaments, and crafted tools from stone and bone. Markets bustled with activity. People exchanged goods, food, and handmade objects. Visitors from distant regions likely arrived regularly, bringing news, stories, and unfamiliar customs. The city must have been filled with sound, voices in conversation, the rhythm of drums during ceremonies, the movement of traders and travelers passing through the plazas. For several centuries, Cahokia stood as one of the most dynamic centers of life in ancient North America. Cahokia's people also possessed impressive knowledge of astronomy. Archaeologists have discovered evidence of a remarkable structure near the city. Today it is known as Woodhenge. This circular arrangement of tall wooden posts functioned as a kind of solar calendar. When the sun rose on certain days of the year, particularly during the solstices, it aligned perfectly with specific posts in the circle. By observing these alignments, Cahokia's priests and astronomers could track the passing of seasons. This knowledge was essential. It guided agriculture, ceremonies, and the timing of major events in the city's calendar. Standing within Woodhenge during sunrise must have been a powerful experience. As the sun appeared on the horizon, its light would shine directly between the wooden posts. To the people of Cahokia, this alignment likely symbolized a connection between the heavens and the earth. Cahokia was not an isolated settlement. It was the center of an enormous trade network stretching across the continent. Archaeologists have discovered artifacts in Cahokia that originated thousands of miles away. Copper arrived from the Great Lakes region. Marine shells came from the Gulf of Mexico. Obsidian traveled from the Rocky Mountains. Exotic stones and minerals came from distant river valleys. These materials were transformed into jewelry, ceremonial objects, and tools. Their presence reveals something remarkable. People from faraway cultures were connected through networks of exchange and communication. At the heart of this network stood Cahokia. It functioned as a hub where goods, ideas, and traditions moved across vast distances. The city was not only large, it was influential. Religion played a central role in Cahokian life. The great mounds were likely stages for sacred ceremonies. Priests and leaders performed rituals meant to connect their people with powerful spiritual forces. Many artifacts discovered in the region show images of birds, warriors, and mythological figures. One of the most famous symbols is the mysterious figure known as Birdman. This powerful image appears in artwork throughout the wider cultural world of Cahokia. Scholars believe it may represent a spiritual hero, a warrior spirit, or a powerful mythological being. These symbols were part of a broader cultural tradition, known today as the Mississippian culture. Cahokia likely served as one of the spiritual centers of this entire civilization. Pilgrims may have traveled hundreds of miles to participate in sacred ceremonies. Yet even the greatest cities faced challenges. By the mid-1200s, signs of strain began to appear in Cahokia. Archaeologists discovered that defensive walls were constructed around key parts of the city. This suggests that conflict may have been increasing. Environmental pressures may also have been building. Years of farming and woodcutting could have damaged nearby ecosystems. The Mississippi River occasionally flooded its banks, threatening farmland and homes. Population growth may have stretched resources to thin. Climate changes may have disrupted harvests. Slowly, the stability that once defined the city began to weaken. Over the following decades, Cahokia's population began to decline. Neighborhoods grew quieter. Buildings were abandoned. Public plazas that once held thousands of people became empty. Eventually, many families began leaving the city entirely. They carried their belongings and traditions into new lands. By around the year 1350, the once great metropolis was largely deserted. The plazas fell silent. The temples stood empty. The great mounds remained, rising above the landscape like silent monuments to a forgotten age. Centuries passed. Forests grew around the ancient earthworks. Grass covered the mounds. When European explorers eventually entered the Mississippi Valley, the great city of Cahokia had long vanished. The towering mounds puzzled early settlers. Some believed they were natural hills. Others imagined they had been built by a mysterious lost civilization. Only in the 19th century did archaeologists begin carefully studying the site. Their excavations slowly revealed the truth. These mounds were the remains of a massive ancient city, one of the most impressive cities ever built in prehistoric North America. Today, the site of Cahokia is preserved as a historic landmark. Visitors can walk across the same ground, where thousands once lived and worked. Standing atop Monks Mound, one can look across the fields and imagine the city that once filled the landscape. Hundreds of homes, crowded plazas, ceremonial temples rising above the horizon. For nearly 3 centuries, Cahokia thrived as a center of culture, trade, and spiritual life. Then it disappeared. Yet its story continues to reshape how we understand the past. Cahokia reminds us that long before European colonization, complex civilizations flourished across North America. Civilizations capable of building cities, organizing trade networks, and creating powerful cultural traditions. Today, the grassy mounds stand quietly beneath the open sky, but they are not empty hills. They are the remains of a forgotten metropolis, a city that once stood among the greatest in the ancient world. And although time nearly erased it from memory, The lost city of Cahokia is finally being remembered again.